Drink beer, it's good for you. I'm empty-handed and I'm feeling blue, and I'm gonna drink till the day that I die.
Hi and welcome to the very first beer brew tasting video. After seeing that there was a lot of popular opinion that I should do tasting videos on all of my brews, I decided that it was time to get to work. So I recruited a couple of helpers that also work in the beer industry. This was the scene of the event in my lounge, and as you can see in front of you here, there's an awful lot of different types of beers, and all of these I've done brewing videos for. We didn't actually manage to get through all of them, but I think we missed about 2. We will of course at a later date get these done as well. Each of us was equipped with beer tasting sheets, and we marked the beers for various different points, as is common in beer judging. Each taster also gave their own comments on each beer. So what I've done is I've taken these tasting sheets and then I've generated an average number for each of the scores, and I present them here in this video for you. I've also made a summary of the comments for each beer also. I've also put all of this information in this video's YouTube description, and I've also added a video link for each of the brewing videos to each beer, just to make it easy for everyone. Before we go to the scores, there's a few things that I'd like to get off my chest first. Firstly, what makes a good beer can vary wildly from person to person. There are certain beer styles that I actually don't like at all. Quite frankly, I'd rather have a cup of tea. So of course I would not score any beer of these natures highly at all. It's also fair to say that certain beer types suit certain conditions, times of year better than others. For this reason we drink different beers in the summer than we do in the winter. And of course we drink different types of beer depending on the food that we're eating also. All of this and more can affect the scores that a beer receives. Not just here, but also in a competition. I have experienced myself where one week you win a first and next week you don't place at all. This is just the weird and wacky world of beer tasting. So there you have it. I got that off my chest now. Now it's time to go with the scores. So here is the first of our beers. This is the Belgian Wit, and you can see that this one was very well received. It scored 83 out of 100 and was particularly high in drinkability and appearance. People considered it to be very much to style, clean and very drinkable and nice and fruity. And now we move on to Sweet Amber Nectar, which is a Belgian amber ale. This one got a total score of 79 points out of 100. The comments I received were that this beer was fruity, clean, refreshing and had a subtle hop taste. So next we have the MANDARINA BAVARIAN HEFEWEISEN, and this was one of those beers that some liked and some weren't so keen on. So really the combination of scores that you see here, 79 out of 100, is representative of that. Those that did like it scored highly, those that didn't obviously scored lowly. This is the average figure. So now to the comments received, and this one was considered to be very refreshing and drinkable with a nice clove taste. The clove, as opposed to the banana, was really down to the fermentation temperature that I used. It also has a very distinct biscuity and bready taste to it. And now we move on to the Norwegian Blonde, and yes, she's very nice, I know, but we're talking about the beer, not her. This beer was one of the highest scoring beers during the beer tasting evening that we had, and I have to say this is one of my favourite brews of 2016. So here are some of the comments that I got on this one. I was told that this is very smooth and pleasant, it has a very nice biscuit aftertaste, and it's a very moorish beer. And like her, it's also very sweet. And here is what I've named my Super Saison. The thing that was different about this one is that I've actually added honey, and this was added just as the fermentation started to wane. This gives it a very honey smell and a very nice honey taste. This was for the most part a very well received beer with some very high scores from certain people in the room. Everyone was very happy with the smell and the appearance of the beer, and this got an impressive total of 84 out of 100. So the other comments that I received apart from the smell and taste were that it has fantastic flavour notes, it's spicy, fruity, and it's also a bit on the dry side. So here's my Belgian Pale Ale, and I have to say that this is a favourite of mine, and it certainly was very popular in the room during the tasting. With high scores all round, this one really is a winner and something that I'm extremely happy with. If you're someone who really appreciates Belgian Pale Ales, then this one really is a must brew. It has a very unique taste and it isn't reminiscent of any particular Belgian commercial Pale Ale, but it's something that really must be tried. It was the second best scoring beer during the tasting and only missed the top spot by half a point. The tasting notes were as follows: very fruity, sweet and dry, highly drinkable with bubble gum on the nose. So now we move on to my chili ale, and as you may remember, this one was brewed quite recently. I was gently coaxed by one particular person to actually put this into the tasting. It's quite clear to me and everyone that this will actually improve a great deal more with age, but as you can see by the score at 90 out of 100, it's already a fantastic beer. The best thing is, I know it's going to improve an awful lot more. So here are the tasting notes. It's got a hot and vegetable taste, it's fantastic for its age, it's very warming, and it's very tasty. And here comes the hop haze. This beer was brewed in the style of a New England IPA, very hazy and very hoppy. I have to say that these days it's hard for me to get excited about just another IPA, but this type I draw an exception to. I think they're very, very interesting, and I would definitely brew more of these in the future. As you can see by the high scores, this beer was very well received at the tasting. Tasting notes for this one included that it was very hoppy and hazy. It still was very fresh despite being some months old, and it was a very nice, easy drinking beer. And here we have the extra special bitter, or ESB as we call them in England. For those that aren't aware of these are a very British style of beer. They're always within a sessionable alcohol level, and they have a very wide range of flavour notes, making them perfect for a fantastic beer evening. This one turned out to be extremely popular in the beer tasting, and I think the score of 86 out of 100 certainly reflects that. And here are the tasting notes, full of malt flavours, hints of raisins and dark fruit, very drinkable and very easy drinking. Next is the Director's Superior Ale clone. This is a favourite of mine from my days living in England, and I've got to say this is something that I really have a passion for. This is one of England's best beers ever. Luckily I have a very, very close clone of it, and it's something that I brew regularly. As you can see by the impressive score of 88.5 out of 100, this was very popular during the tasting also. On the tasting notes we have malty and fruity, we have rich with sherry flavours, high drinkability. And here we have another clone, this time of the Trappist Rochefort beer, a fantastic Belgian ale. Now this one, it's important to say that I cannot take credit for this recipe at all. This is Herman Heltrop's recipe, and by God he got it spot on. Very, very impressive work, Herman. My version of this ended up at 8.5%, and as you probably know with the Trappist Rochefort's beers, they do a 6, an 8 and a 10. So this falls somewhere between the 8 and the 10. This beer certainly benefited from a long conditioning time, I would say about a year, but after that point, my God, fantastic. Something that you really need to have in your beer stock. As you can see by the scores here, this was the most popular beer of the evening, by half a point, but by God is this good. The tasting notes were as follows: close to the original, spicy, fruity, dangerously good, great with chocolate. I wonder where all the chocolate suddenly went. And last but by no means least, we had to leave the strongest beer till the last one of the evening, and this one is around 9%. Usually when I brew an English barley wine, I stick to something a fair bit higher than this, but due to popular demand, i.e. my wife complaining, I decided to make what I call a light barley wine. It certainly is lighter on the alcohol. This is no 14-15% beast, but it's certainly got a very nice taste to it that is very to style. This one has been about a year in the bottle, and it was in conditioning for I think about 9 months before that. So this certainly has had a nice long conditioning period, and the beer certainly benefits greatly from it. As you can see by the high score of 87.5, this beer was a definite hit in the tasting evening. So the tasting notes I have here are that it's to style, malty with raisin dark fruit notes, some sherry notes, and a rich varied taste. Okay, so that's all we had time for in the first tasting evening. I think you'll agree we did manage to cover quite a few, but there are obviously brews left, and they will all be covered in future videos. It's always useful and interesting to get feedback from other people on your brews, and I would encourage everyone to do it. I would like to extend my thanks to the people that actually helped me in tasting this for this video, and I look forward to the next one. So if you did like this video, then please do go ahead and like it on YouTube. This really helps me out and allows the videos to be seen by a wider audience on YouTube. I've got a lot of videos in the pipeline for the future, so if you're interested in seeing what I've got coming up, then please subscribe for future content. If you have any questions on anything that I've covered in this video or in others, or anything to do with brewing in general, then please do not hesitate to get in touch. I'm more than happy to help. Until then, happy brewing!